In 2021, the chief of police in Miami said that the city was run by the Cuban mafia, and then he got fired.
Telling the top cop he's out after a rocky 6 months on the job.
A bit of an overreaction, right? This comment offended the mayor and the city government so much that he lost his job. And then a well-known member of city government known as Crazy Joe played the Godfather theme song as they were swearing in the new chief of police.
Before you go, this has always been traditional when you have this.
I have been a servant of the city of Miami. Oh!
And when he found out the two local businessmen were supporting one of his political rivals, he harassed them and enforced random zoning violations to hurt their business. And when he wanted two of his staffers to be fired, he convinced his niece to falsely accuse them of sexual harassment. The mayor. Okay, as mayor, he's legally supposed to disclose any gift he receives worth more than $100. But he forgot to mention the VIP tickets to the Miami Grand Prix he was gifted and the luxury skybox suite at the World Cup in Qatar. These type of tickets go from $30,000 to over $800,000. He just completely forgot to mention any of this. He claims that one of these gifts came from David Beckham, which is totally not suspicious. It's not like David Beckham is the co-owner of a soccer team that's building $1 billion stadium in Miami, a stadium that was so graciously granted a 99-year lease to the land in Miami they were building on just months before the World Cup. It's also not suspicious that the possibly $100,000 suite the mayor stayed in at the World Cup was also registered to Beckham. Beckham, who in addition to being a co-owner is also a lobbyist for the stadium, meaning that his job is literally to convince the city government to act in his company's favor. One day the mayor's in Miami and the next day he's at an esports ceremony in Saudi Arabia with the crown prince. Alright, so I couldn't exactly find any evidence that the Cuban mafia ran the city, although they were and still are present, and there's the whole thing with the Cuban hostages in Mexico being ransomed by Cuban mobsters from Miami, and when their family can't afford the ransom they get put on a bus and sent to the US-Mexico border where they are ordered to say they are seeking asylum, and the fact that the Trump administration deports Cubans to Mexico where they don't exactly have the correct documentation to be, so they just get kidnapped and held for ransom, and when the ransom is not paid they get sent to the US-Mexico border and the cycle repeats itself. But however, when discussing corruption, well, this is Miami. A woman on the Miami school board spent over $100,000 on a city credit card for trips to the Dominican Republic, Las Vegas, Disney World. I mean, she did so much shopping that they have her on camera multiple times coming out of stores with full shopping carts. She spent over $90,000 like this. She was over District 7 on the school board, which is one of the wealthiest areas in Miami. But maybe she made some new rich friends over there and was just trying to keep up with them. Still crazy though. But with the Crazy Joe thing, one of his employees exposed him for spending city funds on the election campaign of one of his allies, which is a felony. And in a truly crazy move to cover himself, Crazy Joe Carollo not only accused this employee of hacking his city email account to authorize a $1,500 raise for himself, to put the icing on top, he had his wife convince her 20-year-old niece to accuse this employee of making sexually inappropriate comments towards her. Now, in her words, this was her first real job and she just didn't want to cause any problems in her family by refusing, so she did it. Boy, talk about nepotism. Not even old enough to drink, but she was hired as a secretary to one of the most powerful politicians in the city. I guess it's not her fault who her uncle is. But anyway, after this, a former police chief, Richard Bloom, who came to work in Joe's office as his chief of staff, essentially accused Joe of being unprofessional for scolding employees in public and going on, quote, profanity-laden rants on people who he deemed not welcome in his office. And as a totally normal response to your employee essentially asking you to calm down, Joe accused him of extortion, and of course, he also had his niece accuse this man of making her feel uncomfortable. And this is not just speculation or a rumor. The two business owners that Joe harassed earlier ended up suing him, and his niece had to testify in court that she did in fact make false accusations. And he was found liable for over $60 million in damages. Interestingly though, the state's attorney's office cleared him of any criminal wrongdoing in relation to this issue, but I guess that's fair. After being forced to cough up over $60 million, a criminal charge on top of that would just be overkill. But back to the mayor. Now, immediately I saw a red flag with this guy once I discovered that he was known as the Bitcoin mayor. And what really stands out is his other job, because in addition to being the mayor, which puts him in a position to influence things like zoning and construction, he's also a real estate attorney, something that surely would create a conflict of interest somewhere. Well, a real estate developer reached out to the Miami zoning director, you know, the guy you have to talk to before you build something, and he proposed a $70 million real estate development in Coconut Grove. The zoning director, however, said no, and for the average developer, that's pretty much it. But this real estate developer also pays the mayor $10,000 a month, because even though the mayor doesn't publicly disclose the name of his clients, this guy is most certainly one of them. So the zoning guy, thinking nothing of the deal he just rejected, walked into a restaurant called Flanagan's, not sure which one, there's a few of them in Miami, but when he sat down, he got a call from Lazaro Quintero, who works for the mayor's office, and Quintero essentially told the zoning guy that he should reconsider that deal. And upon hearing from the mayor's office, he did reconsider and approve the project. And that's when you have to ask, is this $10,000 a month being paid to the mayor so he can use his expertise in real estate law? Or is it essentially a loophole and bribery? Because if I'm the mayor, sure, I'm a real estate attorney, but being the mayor, I also have a lot of influence on real estate, so technically, I could just tell people what to do to help you out as my client. This exact situation would have probably had the same outcome even if the mayor was a horrible attorney. The zoning guy works for the city, so when he gets a call from his boss's office telling him to reconsider something he did at work, what the hell is he supposed to do? Say no? And in addition to the notorious crypto scam company FTX getting the naming rights to the Miami Heat NBA arena from the city, the mayor was also a big advocate of Miami Coin. Yes, Miami Coin. It went exactly how you'd expect. In 2021, the mayor stated that his government made over $21 million from Miami Coin. And before we talk about how worthless Miami Coin is today, 3 years ago, the mayor announced publicly that a percentage of the city's profit will be distributed to Miami residents in Bitcoin.
The yield will be approximately somewhere in the vicinity of $1 million or more, and we're going to distribute that to Miami residents.
He lied.
This man actually got on the news and said that he would just give away free money. And I'll give you guys 5 seconds to guess if this actually happened or not. Anybody watching from Miami, let me know in the comments. Did you get Bitcoin for free? The audacity to even make a claim like that shows that he truly could not care less. And since he's announced the city's big profit from Miami Coin, it has literally become worthless. He even somehow got the FIU College of Business to agree that this was a cryptocurrency people should keep an eye on. Like, come on, man. College kids are already broke. Don't sell them a dream. Not to mention, at the time of me making this video, the crypto market just crashed again and wiped out over $79 billion. And just for good measure, let's also talk about the governor of Florida stealing money. In 2021, Florida's biggest Medicaid contractor overcharged the state's Medicaid programs. Specifically, they overcharged for prescription medication. But the company agreed to pay back the $67 million it now owed for overcharging. $10 million of this was donated to a charitable foundation known as Hope Florida, which was founded by the governor's wife. Now, this money was supposed to go to her single parents, kids that are aging out of foster care, and other individuals in need. But instead, this $10 million was sent by the governor's right-hand man to 2 groups that were campaigning against the legalization of recreational marijuana. So instead of helping the Department of Children and Family, it went towards campaigning against something that over half of Florida voters actually voted for. 55% of voters in Florida were in favor of legalizing marijuana. Now, regardless of how you feel about that issue, this is what majority of people voted for. But this failed to pass because technically, the state needs 60% of people to vote for it, not 55. So not only did the state not do what majority of voters wanted, but the governor spent money that wasn't his on making sure this amendment would never pass. Nearly 6 million people voted in favor of this. That's a quarter of the entire population of Florida. But unfortunately, that's not how voting works in the US. But none of this should be a surprise, as it doesn't really matter what the party affiliation is, because Miami, which has a Republican mayor within the Republican state of Florida, is just as corrupt as the Democrat-run Chicago inside of the Democrat-run state of Illinois. This is one of the biggest myths in the United States, that one party is somehow corrupt and the other one is not. If you're from another country, you probably don't know the difference between the two parties, but when it comes to money, like specifically stealing and lying about money, as well as lying in general to the public, there is no difference between the two parties. Miami is a safe haven for crypto scammers, the mayor is a corrupt crypto bro that probably has a secret condo in Dubai, and the governor hates weed so much that he publicly stated it would never become legal while he's the governor. And while he is entitled to that opinion, that's not how democracy works. Right? Even if I, as the governor, don't support something, if my state votes for it, then it should be out of my hands. Right? This one statement isn't even about weed. He's literally saying your vote doesn't matter. But either way, Florida will continue to generate money, tourists and drunk college kids will continue to fund its economy, and old rich people will continue to retire here and fund sugar babies all over the country. So the next time you see a yacht party in Miami, just remember the old rich guy who's paying for the whole thing.
I met up with like a sugar daddy. So his plan was to pay me $10K for peeing on his face. And I peed on his face.
So thanks for watching.